You, you, you may be seated. I had a long lesson this morning. I think my kids is wrecked it. But I can say this, you know, my daughters are here. We're having family portraits after church. My grandbaby said, you guys are stuck hearing about my family. But I appreciate my daughters also. Christmas, went to see my dad and mom. My dad's quite weak, and you know, he can't walk too far, he has to sit. But I thought when Josh is standing here, my dad, as long as I remember him preaching, never say much about the war, but the last few years, that's, if you go, he'll talk. And so many of his friends were killed, so many died. He's seen so much. And I can remember when I was a little boy, we used to take my dad to the Veterans Hospital in Beckley, West Virginia, because his nerves were shot. He'd watch men, you know, their heads would explode, things would happen all around him, all of them would die but him. He'd be the only one left. And so how many knows that takes a toll on your nerves? So I remember us taking him to the hospital. Mom just tell us that, you know, he just needed some help because the plane would go over, he'd just shake, you know, 2.5 years in combat. It takes a big toll on people. My mother was very good, but she had problems with it because her only brother was killed in Germany. So when they shipped the box back, his body wasn't there. They'd buried him in Germany, so she never got to see him, or in France it was. And so she always had trouble with war or soldiers and things because it brought her back to her only brother that she had is 19 years of age in his ambush behind lines and killed. So it was a tremendous traumatic part on both of them. But when we were there, my dad, if you go visit him or see him anymore, he's a happy, smiling guy. You know what he always tells me? I'm waiting and looking to go home. He'll say, last night I just, you know, thought about mom and dad and my brothers and sisters. I'm just wanting to go. And I shared with you when some visited him, said, you know, you're a minister, you don't retire, you have to keep preaching. He quoted him the scripture there in Psalms. He said, you know, you give him what? 70 years by reason of health, 80, and then you're cut off and fly away. He said, I'm on the runway just waiting to fly. He said, my preaching days are over. But Josh, I know, Jonathan, I know, and it's hard in the morning. You know, they don't get to practice these songs, so it's hard for them to come home all of a sudden out of the clear blue. But this is to my dad, the old soldier looking, waiting to go home. And how many of us, even though we're starting a new year and want God to bless us, do all we can down here this year, but how many knows there's a lot of them? I'm one of those looking for home. This isn't our home. Well, pilgrims and strangers passing through. Heaven is our home. It's eternity. That's forever. It's just a few years you're allowed here. You appreciate the years you have with your family. I've been fortunate, I thank God. Some of you don't have that long with your children as I have, or with your wives as I have. You that's been blessed with many years with your companion, it still hurts when they leave or when they're sick. But how no, you're grateful for what God has given you. And those that have the hope of everlasting being with them, how many knows? We face it with tears, but inside we shout because we know we're going to go be with them. So, for Daddy, if you would, one more time. Now, he's been trying to kill me this week. He took me out to exercise, I think 3.5 hours. I'm just laying there ready to die. I think I'm back in the service.
The party didn't tell you he's waking me up at 5:30 in the morning to go exercise. Like Dad said, my grandpa, I don't know if he has had a huge impact on my life, and many of you know he founded this church. But even ever since young, like I grew up, I started about 11 years old working at a farm in Conneaut, and Dad would drive me each day to the farm during the summer. And as soon as I got out of the car, I just dropped everything and ran to Grandpa's house. He always had a popsicle waiting for me, always had a story. And probably 15 times or so I visited him, he shared that same story. I'm on the runway, waiting to take flight. Dear Lord, just let my wings lift me off the ground. So my grandpa, like Dad said, is one of the happiest, most optimistic people. He is the one sitting in that dining facility at the nursing home, not complaining, eating every bit on his plate, and thanking God for it. So this song is for him, and all the love he gave this church, and all the love he gave me and my brothers and sisters growing up. So. A penny for your thoughts, I said to the old man. as he sat there on that park bench all alone, with silver hair, wrinkled brow, eyes gleaming. He smiled and said, just thinking about my home. I sat down and we shared some laughs together, and the cinema of remembrance, it did roll. We talked about life's gains and its losses, but mostly he just talked about his home. He said, I'm thinking about home, thinking about going home, dreaming about leaving here, ready to be moving on. It won't be long before the sun goes down and I'll be gone. But until then, I'll be thinking about home. I said, tell me, old man, where's your home and what's it like? He said, oh, ain't nothing around here can compare. You see, a king had it built and gave the deed to me, and all my family's already there. He said, I'm thinking about home, thinking about going home, dreaming about leaving here, ready to be moving on. It won't be long before the sun goes down and I'll be gone. But until then, I'll be thinking about home. It won't be long before the sun will set and I'll be gone. But until then, I'll be thinking about home.